Hello, everyone. My name is Katan. I'm the founder of BossBabeBlog.com. I'm a small business directory owner, and today we're talking about the art of understanding projection. And I say the art because it is the art of understanding projection, not the art of projection, but the art of understanding projection. Once you are able to refine your ability to do this, to understand projection, your experience of business and life will never be the same. Some people say they understand it, but when you really dig deeper into the root of projection, oh, everything becomes so much clearer, and you start to take attacks less personally, even if they are personal attacks, because a lot of things come from projection. So, what am I talking about when I say projection? I'm not talking about a projector that you see on a screen. Ooh, let me fluff my little afro. I'm talking about psychological projection. So let's check this out. So, the definition of projection: psychological projection is a defense mechanism where individuals attribute their own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, or motives to another person. In doing so, they defend themselves against their own unconscious impulses or qualities by denying their existence in themselves and attributing them to others. So because this is something that I'm dealing with, I'm internally dealing with, or because this is who I am, I need to deny the existence of that being within me, and I need to project it onto somebody else. That makes me feel better. That's what I'm grasping from that definition. But let's look into some examples. Um, Examples: blaming others for one's own mistakes. A student who didn't study for an exam might claim their teacher failed to teach them the material properly. The office gossip: an employee who frequently talks about others might accuse colleagues of spreading rumors about them. There's so much truth behind projection that once you start to understand this psychology, you will change the way that you think about others, but you may also change the way that you conduct yourself. I want to recircle back to blaming others for one's own mistakes. In business, this is a very common thing. So, for entrepreneurs and business owners, if you are able to understand this psychology and start to break it down so that you're not exhibiting these behaviors, you will see so much more growth for your business because it pushes you and forces you to take accountability for your own actions. So, blaming others for one's own mistakes. A student who didn't study for an exam might claim their teacher failed to teach them the material properly. So instead of taking accountability and just saying, I didn't study for the exam, I knew the exam was on this date and I just wasn't prepared. I knew it was on that date. I was told early that it was on that date. I didn't study. I didn't sit down and prepare a schedule, and I didn't work on it early because I knew that when the date came, I'm not going to want to do this last minute. I just showed up and I wanted to pass. And then when I didn't pass, I blamed it on my teacher when I didn't even do my due diligence of making sure that everything was done on my end before I open my mouth to blame the next person. I've seen so many entrepreneurs do that. I've seen times where entrepreneurs have received opportunities and then they start to complain about the free opportunities that they received, and they haven't even done what they're supposed to do on their end. I've seen them say, oh, this didn't work. And I say, well, how many times did you show up and how did you show up? Oh, well, I didn't show up. It just didn't work for me because I read the da da da. Okay, so this is irrelevant. So when you understand how projection, sometimes projecting your own insecurities onto the next person, can happen in business and in life, you become a lot more accountable of the decisions that you make and you take ownership of what you do. That's the first side of things. The second beautiful side of this is that when you understand projection in business and in personal life, you begin to start to see why people say and do what they do. So when someone says something to you that's negative or uncalled for or, excuse me, weird, you're not looking at it as a personal attack because you know that this is a projection of how they feel. They feel that way about themselves. They feel that way about their own brand. When I hear a person say something like, that's stupid, that'll never work. I had someone say that to me once about an idea that I had that ended up in turn working. And I had multiple people who signed up to be a part of it. So this person was just telling me that it was a stupid idea. It would never work. I was wrong for even thinking about doing it, all these different things. And in the beginning, I was like, what's wrong with you? But then I actually took a moment to look at their life and what they had going on. And this is someone who was in entrepreneurship. They weren't seeing a lot of traction to their page from what I could see. I didn't see a website. I didn't see information about their business. You're feeling insecure about yourself. You're worried that what you're doing isn't going to work because you've told me that you've been in this industry for years, but I'm not seeing that traction. And although social media does not always equate to that traction, usually people who are serious about what is they're doing will have a contact point, like a website, a form to fill out, a interview, a consulting page, something where people can go and receive that insight. But it's very much, I guess, just on the fly. And that's not everybody. Some people may not have those things and still do great business because their platform is a brick and mortar location or their platform is on a different platform, someone else's selling platform. So it's not to say that you can't be successful and you can't be serious without those things, but the perception that I was seeing was someone who was insecure about their own things because you're not even posting about your own things, your own solutions. You're not even sharing what you do. You're underneath someone else's post telling them why what they're doing isn't going to work and why what they're doing is stupid. So to me, it felt like it was a projection of your own insecurities because you feel like what you're doing isn't going to work and you feel like what you're doing is stupid. So you got to go and try to make someone else feel the way that you feel inside, which is scared and which is a lack of control. And sometimes people do that and they're not even realizing they do it. And sometimes they do it intentionally. And sometimes they somewhat are aware that they're doing it and somewhat not. Like a person might be stressed out. And so because they're stressed out, they feel like you should be stressed out. Now, I don't know if that's projection, but that's more so like I feel like because I feel this way, you need to feel that way. And it can be very intentional when they do that, when they say and do stuff to try to get you to be at the space that they're at so that their reality can be that you are like this, even though the true reality is that this is an internal issue that they need to work on within themselves. The anxiety, the impatience, the disrespect, the, being upset, whatever it is, that's an internal thing they need to work on. But when it becomes a group thing, it allows them to escape accountability and look at it like it's a we thing. What we have to understand in psychology is that in many cases, it's never a we thing, it's a them thing. And when you engage in it and entertain it and make them think that it's a we thing, it feeds the idea to them that it's a we problem, when in reality it's a them problem. You don't have any problems with them. Heck, they may not even want any problems with you or themselves, but the issues that they are dealing with internally that they're stirring up, that's a them problem. And you just got to let them have it and then move on to the next person, because some people are just not healed yet and they're not working to be healed and they're not working to be self-aware of how their own actions create their own results and how their lack of or ability to have accountability creates their results. So understanding that art of projection makes you take a lot of stuff less personal. And you don't take it as personal as you would if you didn't know that it was a projection of their own insecurities. You know, I've had times where I had one time where I do think a person was projecting onto me because they kept saying stuff about how I just take anything, in my personal life or in my romantic life. And I don't just take anything. Anyone who knows me knows that. But on top of me not just taking anything, there's a lot of stuff that I do not deal with or I do not allow. So if it's happening, it might be happening and I'm not aware of it. Or maybe I was younger and I was still formulating my opinion about it and my thoughts on it. But when I decide that something is not for me, I'm not doing it. And that's in every area of my life. So this person kept saying that. And I just didn't understand why they kept saying that. But then when we fast forward and when we rewind, there were moments in their relationship where things happened that were completely unacceptable, which, by the way, have never happened to me. At least not in my knowledge, because people can lie to you all day, right? So that person could have been doing that stuff and lying. We don't know. But from my knowledge, it never happened to me. It was never presented to me. I never found it. I never had somebody walk up to me and say, "Hey, is this you?" Never. So there were things going on in that individual's relationship that I thought were completely unacceptable and disrespectful to this person's value and how much they care for that individual. And they still accepted that individual. And there were other things that happened in that relationship that were unacceptable and that were a breach of boundaries and a breach of, respect. And the individual still stayed and continued to stay and decided that they were going to get married to that person. So, in the process of them getting ready to get married to that person, these conversations began to come about where they would say things to me like, "I don't know how you deal with that," or "I don't know how you take that." And that's where I began to realize that I didn't realize in the moment, but later on, that this is a projection. You are upset at the fact that you accept things that you shouldn't accept, that you know you shouldn't accept because you're not comfortable with them. It's not because of what other people think you should accept, it's because you're not comfortable with them. So you know you shouldn't accept it, and you still accept it, and you continue to move forward in that light. And there are big things. Don't get me wrong, no one's here to judge, but they are big things. So in the process of you doing that, you need someone else to project your own insecurities onto. So you're going to turn to the next person, whether it's your friend, whether it's your coworker, whoever, and say things like, I don't know how you deal with that. I don't know how you do that. Because it eliminates the idea that you are the person that deals with that and you are the person that does that. That is how projection works. And when you understand that, you become a lot less focused on trying to be upset about things. You just let people be their own insecure self, because in many cases, that's what that projection stems from. It's a level of insecurity. And instead of them being able to say it and be direct and self-aware about it, they say things towards other people that's passive aggressive. Like, instead of me saying, you know what, I take a lot that I shouldn't take. They just go to you and say, I don't know how you deal with that. And that's the level of insecurity they have. Another thing that people project is their goals or their wants. If they feel like they should have a designer car, or a $1 million car, if that's what they feel like they should have and they don't have it, they're going to come to you and say things like, you don't have that car yet, because that's what you want and you don't have it. And instead of just saying that you don't have it, you're going to project onto me to try to make me feel poorly about my goals and where I'm at, because you're not where you want to be. I've had people do that plenty of times. I had a person who told me what car I need to be driving. I need to be driving a designer car. That's what they told me. Along with some other unsolicited advice of what I need to be doing in my life. Come to find out, this individual was not driving the level of car that they felt like I need to be driving, that they were holding me accountable to do it. So if you're driving around in an Easter egg, why are you coming to me telling me I need to be driving in a Maserati or whatever car? Because you feel bad about the fact that you're driving an Easter egg. There's nothing wrong with driving an Easter egg, okay? If you want to drive in a Beetle or whatever car it is, you drive that car because it's your car. And as long as it gets you from transportation A to B, then that's all that matters. Yes, image plays a factor in business sometimes, but when you have what you have, you got to work with what you have. And you just have to learn to accept that I have everything that I need to be successful. And you have to continue feeling that way until you get to the next level. But a lot of times people are insecure in themselves and they hold their value in material things. And so instead of accepting that and being honest with themselves, they then try to project that insecurity onto you. So because you don't have a designer bag, you're not where you're supposed to be, when in reality, they feel like they're not where they're supposed to be because they don't have a designer bag. But by saying it to you, it takes away the reality that that's them. So once you understand that, you stop taking things personally. I've had people downplay my dreams. I've had people downplay my hard work and my capabilities as a professional. I've had people downplay my results as a professional, knowing that I've gotten them great results, knowing that 80 to 90% of their customers came from my base, came from my clients, my shoppers, bossbabeblog.com, knowing that they didn't know half the stuff that they know now from business because of my classes or because of my services. I've had people try to downplay me as a person. I've had people try to downplay me based off materialistic things. I had a person make fun of my vehicle and say, you still driving that $2,000 piece of something like that along those lines. But guess what? This is my $2,000 piece of okay? And it's also the same car that you're riding in when you need support, because I'm available to support you. So at the end of the day, it didn't even make sense to say that. I've had people say things like that to me. I've had people try to make me feel weird about doing certain things. One person was like, oh yeah, you can't mix brands or something along those lines, about like clothes and stuff like that. I don't care about that stuff. And I never have. So when I see that people say things like that, I don't take it personally, because I realize that it's not only ignorance, because for you to assume that a person is one way based off of materialistic things is ignorant, and it shows a lack of wisdom and experience. It's also insecurity that is being projected. They're projecting insecurity onto you, and they're hoping that you're going to latch on to that insecurity so that this can be a psychological we problem instead of a psychological I need to work on this problem. So what you have to do is you have to not entertain it, and you just have to keep on moving to somebody that is on the same frequency is you. Because in many cases, people want you to entertain that because they are projecting their insecurities onto you. So keep that in mind. Keep growing. Don't allow anyone to tell you that you can't achieve something because you don't have a certain look or, designer clothes. And not to say that you can't elevate, because those are two different things. People love to take words and just make it their whole life. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you don't have certain things yet, don't let people trick you into thinking that that's your insecurity, because that's their insecurity. I had someone tell me something about souping up my car. Come to find out, they had a raggedy car. Nothing wrong with having a raggedy car. If that's what you got, that's what you got. You're gonna work with it. But they had that. And they were trying to tell me about souping up my car and telling me how about my car isn't enough. You need to do this. You need to fix a window. You need to do that. Now, it's different when someone's trying to give you advice because they want to see you do better and stuff. But this wasn't that type of advice. This was a place of insecurity coming to tell someone how they needed more in their life or they needed to do more in order to be on a certain status. And you're not even on that status. So a lot of people who aren't there tend to project their insecurities onto other people who are getting there. So just because you don't have everything you feel like you need to have to grow your business or your life or your dreams or be happy, don't let other people's insecurities be projected onto you, because you are perfectly fine where you're at. You're growing, you're developing, and that's what's most important at the end of the day. Their insecurities and their personal issues is not your problem. It's not a we thing. It is a they thing. And they're going to have to work through that on their own. And the moment that you start to give them attention in that area is the moment that you confirm that it is a we thing. This is not a we issue. This is a you problem. And that's what people have to understand. So when you understand projection, you separate yourself from those conversations. You separate yourself from those environments because you understand this is not me and this isn't even you. This is a projection of your insecurities that you're trying to push onto me. So I'm going to let you do that by yourself. And I'm going to go find people who are secure within themselves and self-aware and emotionally aware enough to say, hey, this is something that I need to work on. So I hope that this video helps anyone out there who's hardworking, trying to build something for themselves, trying to grow, and you have people, running around intentionally projecting their negativity onto you. This is for you. Have a great rest of your day. Be productive. And we probably got 1 or 2 more lives this morning. Bye-bye.